Hi everyone. I'm happy to present you Breadcrumbs Studios, and Interactive. Sorry. They made a wonderful game. I'm their biggest fan. They made a wonderful game. It's called Yaga, and now they're bringing to us their new demo, which is called Monster Therapy. Can wait for them to tell us their inside knowledge of how they made their first game. And now I'm gonna let them present to you.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. We're Breadcrumbs. I'm Bogdan.
I'm Cătălin.
We both do game design and programming. So this is us basically. Also Dora, which doesn't have graphics officially yet. So
I've been waiting for one.
We're a small team, and we started out in this journey not necessarily from like the things that we do right now. We had a beginning with like mobile game development a long while ago, and it took a while until we actually got to this formula that we're working under right now as Breadcrumbs, and our title that we're sort of known for. I mean, I would say it's a success, but it's not let's say it wasn't a staggering success, but it was definitely something that we could be happy with and call our own and be proud to show it to everyone. Yaga is basically an action RPG that takes inspiration from Slavic mythology. Why Slavic mythology specifically and not Romanian? Well, we got that question a lot, and it's mostly because Slavic is just like encompassing so much more that is out there that even Romanian mythology got inspired from. And we basically wanted to get a message across to as many as possible. So basically, what is Yaga? As I mentioned, it's basically an action RPG with Slavic folklore where you play as Ivan, who is a blacksmith, an unlucky one that is trying to fight his bad luck while the Tsar sends him on all sorts of impossible quests, and he's aided by Baba Yaga to overcome these as part of her plan. In the end, so Ivan does end up being a pawn in this, but it very much depends on the playstyle that you adopt. The outcome might differ quite a lot. So we started working on it. I think I'm not entirely sure.
2015.
2015, yes. So we started working in 2015. We ramped up like. The content and a lot of the systems we then started developing more of it in 2017, 2018, and as we approached the deadline, we launched first on Epic, and because we had a deal and that helped us a lot, and we're going to get to that soon enough. And we also launched a DLC afterwards. So in 2021, Roots of Evil, which explores the story of the Leshy and how it got corrupted. That's when we launched it. So it's just to have a framework for this conversation. Let's just call it a discussion rather than a presentation. We asked our host to collect some questions so we can have some topics to focus on, right? So we tried to connect them as much as possible. We just ended up like connecting them stuff that is about Yaga. Then we're gonna talk about our upcoming title, Monster Therapy, and then some general questions, right? And then we're just gonna go wild with any other extra questions. After each topic, you'll be able to ask as many questions as you wish on the topic at hand, right? So the first up, let's grab a torch.
Like most people dream of doing game dev full time, what advice would you give your past selves if you were to do Yaga again? This is a tough one, I guess.
Don't start with the custom engine.
Well, if you do Yaga didn't have a custom engine.
Yes, yeah, it did. Yeah, the first version was made custom version.
No, Yaga began in Unity.
Oh, okay.
No, that's another one. That's the cow game, the unpublished cow game. So yeah, that's a good way to start. Don't make a custom engine. Just use an existing engine because it's not worth the time. I mean, if you're here to make games, if you're here to make technology, sure, go wild, do custom engine, learn a lot, and then maybe you can release it as a new open source engine. Specifically to Yaga, I would say something that one advice would be to focus on the core gameplay before anything else. We started with research. We gathered a lot of resources. I think I read about 10 or 20 books related to Slavic mythology, just getting all the ideas into it. And that's, of course, a very important part for the game designer, but you also have, at the same time, to work on the game itself, because the game is not the concept. The game is what you play. So the biggest advice would be prototype, see what the core gameplay loop is, and expand from there. We did have, actually, in 2015, we went to Gamescom. We had a prototype made in 3 months. But the funny stuff is that that prototype, for I think almost a year afterwards, didn't evolve much in terms of gameplay. It evolved in terms of presentation, in terms of dialogue, in terms of art, but the gameplay stayed mostly the same. And that is something that I wish I could go back and maybe iterate faster, because it would help a lot with everything that follows afterwards. At one point, when I don't know, the budgets got close and the release date was coming up, we reached a state where we were pleased with the gameplay and we had all the individual tools to work on the content. And I think the last 6 months of the projects were really fun because we were able to churn out lots of small scenes, dialogues, story, everything.
We got to that point to actually enjoy
making the game. But we could have shortened it up the beginning part to a couple of years. Do you have any more advice about your past self regarding Yaga?
If you want to design something and you have so many ideas in your head, just stick to the first that comes to your mind and do it. Fail fast. If you wanna succeed, don't get bogged down on, maybe just improving a bit here, maybe improving that. Just slice through it as soon as possible and try the next thing and see and experience maybe a better version of the game. So don't get too bogged down on details. Don't let let's say the design creep set in and hold you there captive on one specific thing. So yeah.
And before we move to the next question, I just want to clarify that don't take what we're saying as a recipe or some wisdom, because we have no idea what we're talking about. We're just talking about what worked for us and what we learned, which may not apply now at all to the industry as it is now. So just, this is our experience. If you have something to gain from it, fun. If not, don't trust us to give a recipe. All right, how did you decide to collaborate with Subcarpați? Would you do it again? People say online that though the music is good, it doesn't fully fit the game. How did we decide? I think it was, I wasn't really familiar with Subcarpați that much. I knew about them, knew 1 or 2 songs, but back in, again, 2016 or 2017, I saw them first time in a live concert. And I was, at that moment, I was thinking about the game and the design and everything, and they played actually the music from the trailer, the Coarcu, that was live on the stage. And at that point, it just clicked, okay, this would be such a perfect way to match the rhythm with the hammer hits. We already had a hammer in the game at that point. So I think 2 days later, I tried to ask my friends, does anyone know someone who knows a friend of a friend who knows Subcarpați? And luckily we did have a colleague of ours who knew someone who knew Subcarpați. They put us in in contact, and at the beginning I emailed him. I said, hey, I want to use your music for the game. He said, okay, sure, let's find a way to work together. And I wasn't sure how far to go, how many music to ask for, what tracks to ask, and I said, okay, I'm interested in the beginning, let's just decide on one track for the trailer, and said, it's not worth it for one track. We either go full in or none at all. And I said, okay, then let's go for the whole catalog. If one is too small, let us license whatever music you made, and not only your Subcarpați music, but also your collaborators, because while trying to select a couple of 10 or 20 tracks, I realized that most Subcarpați tracks, even though they had really cool beats, they had the voices in it. And that's a detractor for putting it in a game. And I found out that Argatu actually had much better fitting music. And then I found that Argatu was actually sort of published by Subcarpați as a brand, so it all fit, and we could get all of them in one shot. If we would do it again with Subcarpați for another game, I guess it depends on the game, because each time we have different inspiration, different things we want to do. For Monster Therapy, it's not going to be Subcarpați because that doesn't fit. But yeah, who knows? Yaga 2 or 3, we might get them again. Next.
Was it worth working with a publisher? Absolutely yes. So I guess we probably we couldn't be here if not for that fact. It was something that ended up fueling our development.
Overall, they connected us to influencers. They paid people to play the game online, to spread the marketing, have the marketing word. And the most important part that the publisher could do, which we couldn't have done on ourselves, was discussing with platform holders. The game got published on Apple TV, Apple Arcade, which just launched, and they were looking for games. They were even willing to fund part of development, which Apple ended up paying for a lot of the costs of our development and of the publishers doing that. They also helped us a lot with porting. It was something that we knew we could do it. We already had dev kits for Xbox, dev kits for Switch. I think for PlayStation we had a signed deal, but we didn't get the dev kits unless we paid, I don't know, 3,000 euros or something like that. But we knew that we didn't have the time to do the porting ourselves. We would rather use that time to work on the game, not on the tech. And the publisher helped us outsource that to a porting company. Same for, I'm not sure if it's a plus, the localization, because as I said, ups and downs. For the localization, Apple requested, in order to partially fund the game, Apple had demands of supporting 14 languages, like the whole Apple ecosystem, which is fine, I guess. It's inclusive, it's really cool, but it costs a lot of money to translate a story-rich game with lots of text into 14 languages. And the publisher took care of that, so it didn't have to come out of our effort, except for one thing. But the quality of that translation, because it was really massive, they went the cheap route. They found some cheap partners, and the quality was bad for some of the languages. Any additional questions
related to Yaga? No. All right.
From the cover question, still, at what point of the prototype did you seek funding for Yaga?
We actually sought funding all the way from the initial 2 months prototype until the final signing of the deal, which overall I think took about 3 or 4 years of continuously pitching and finding new publishers, talking with them, trying to submit the game to indie festivals. The road to Versus Evil was actually, it's a funny story, because if you know, there's a game dev conference in Bucharest, DevPlay, and they had their first edition a while ago, 2016 I think was, and I was really not in the mood for going there. It was a rougher period in my life. I didn't want to go there, but they gave us something like free invites. They said, bring us, come here, do a demo, put the game on your machines. It's a fun game. Just come. And I was absolutely sure that I don't want to go there. But my wife said, oh, come on, it's just a weekend. Go and see what you find there. And when we got there, there was a pitching competition. So a couple of studios were presented their pitching deck and their story, and there was a judge, not a panel of judges who decided what's the best pitch, and the best pitch got to qualify in the next phase of the pitching competition in Malmö, Sweden. And somehow, I think, that was the day when overnight after getting there, we saw a panel of advice how to make your pitch. I stayed overnight up until 3 or 4 o'clock to remake my whole pitch deck and change it up. And in the next day, I entered the pitch competition and we won. It was, oh, that's fun, let's go to Sweden now. And then we went to Sweden. I had the same pitch deck that I won in Bucharest, but again, there was a small panel for the participants, like how to improve your pitch deck again. And again, I stayed overnight to add more stuff in. I think I emailed the guys back home asking the artists to, okay, can you make this short sequence, send it to me, I'll add it to the pitch and stuff like that. And then again, we won. And winning that pitching competition, even if I unwillingly went into it in the start, that gathered the attention of Versus Evil and a couple of other publishers who then contacted us and said, okay, let's discuss, let's see if we can work together. So yeah, that's the story.
I wanted to ask how you got the voice actors? Because I played the game, I remember Ivan had quite a good voice acting. I was like, how did you got that bad?
Yeah. When I was in Sweden, there was, the story, it's fun because everything connects when you look back at it, but when you're in the moment, it's just the idea, take whatever opportunity arises because it might come back later. There was a matchmaking session, business to business, and some voiceover studio from London contacted us and said, let's have a 15 minutes meeting to discuss what they could do for us. I wasn't interested in that because I was trying to set up meetings with publishers. I would try to pitch something to others, not others pitching something to me. But I said, okay, what could happen? And she was a really cool person, Meg. Talked about their studio, how they record voices. I looked, they did voiceover for some pretty nice games. And 2 years later, when we got to the point that, okay, it's time to actually record the voices, I just looked through my emails and cards, and I found her a note, got in contact with her, and then she walked me through the whole process, what happens, what goes on, how it works. Another studio in Romania at that time, they did voiceover almost by themselves. I mean, they contacted the voice actors, they discussed directly, they got the recordings from them, so it was a manually managed process. And they did have really good voiceover, but we didn't want to take on all that process. We needed help because we knew it's a lot of text, a lot of voices, we needed help throughout that. Before that, we tried using, I think it was voices.com for one of the previous games, where you submit the pitch, you pay pennies for some voice actor to record the voice, and we knew that's not scalable. It needs a lot of voices. So I got in contact with the girl from UK. Initially I said that, okay, can't we just give you the scripts and then you record it and send us the voiceover file? And she said, no, it's important that one of you guys, the writer, the designer, one of you guys is here in the studio to see how it goes, to interact with the actors, to see the process. And it was really fascinating and eye-opening how the whole process goes. And for selecting the actors, for example, she would send samples of, so first I sent description of the characters, like each character has a 1 paragraph description. She would send back anonymized samples of voices, and we would pick which we think sounds better for that character. And only afterwards we would learn who those voice actors are. And we actually find out that one of our characters is voiced by the actor who played Aegon Targaryen in Game of Thrones. We had the voice of McGonagall from Harry Potter in one of the games. So it was really fun finding out the voice actors are actually recorded voices for different games. I think we also have a common voice actor with one of the Mass Effect games. So that's fun. And yeah, the process was really fun. And then we also recorded the voiceover for the DLC, which this time we did online because COVID-20.
So it is about a historical thing that happened. How did you deal with historical facts versus gameplay elements? Which one did you prioritize? Do you have like examples that you went through? What was your process of making a game about something that already exists?
So it wasn't necessarily something that we built on historical facts as much as the folk tales, right? The tales that were told to children by their parents and grandparents, and they were stories that were told in Russia, in Ukraine, in Bulgaria, in Croatia. So we managed Poland, everywhere. We managed to sample the whole mythos as much as possible, as much as we could. Kata mentioned reading a bunch of books, quite a lot of references there, and you would absolutely expect things to be very different from one another. So you would see that in some place that type of mythical creature looks a certain way, whereas in another place, another corner of the Balkans, it looks differently. So we sort of had to settle on something. It wasn't something that we really wanted to, you know, like we never looked for accuracy. So we always tried.
There's no accuracy in how does a leshy look like.
Exactly,
Doesn't
right.
look like anything.
What is a
Fictional
leshy?
creature.
Whatever you want it to be that makes sense, like with the essence, like that you read about in one of the stories. Does it connect? Do you feel like people reading or knowing the stories from their childhood will connect with your game? And that's yes, go with that. So other than that, we just set the whole thing. The setting is basically a fictional place with a basically random evil tsar, right? So we never said anything about how that land came to be, where that land is. It's just, even like in our first trailer, we just teased that with, in a certain kingdom, in a certain land, blah, blah, blah. So
which is a standard introduction to any fairy tale.
Exactly. We followed those formulas of the anonymous in a way that doesn't really convey any specific location, specific time.
What we did do was we decided from the start that we saw while researching creatures, we compared, of course, which other appearances those creatures had in other games. Like Witcher is Polish mythology, that's Slavic. There's a lot of overlap there, but from the outset we decided that we thought the Witcher game actually westernized most of their monsters. So even if they were inspired by the books and the book was inspired by mythology, gradually the game actually looked more like a Western interpretation of the Eastern Europe myths. And we said, okay, we don't want that. Let's take the same source material because it's big and vast, but we wanted to keep it closer to home, which is why we have also Romanian folklore elements which don't actually appear in other Slavic countries, but we wanted to mix them to give our own interpretation and perspective on that. So yeah, that was a guideline. Don't westernize it, just like Romanianize it.
Monster therapy, yeah. It is our way of continuing what we ended up doing good, that is the narrative, and expanding into a different territory in terms of gameplay. It's basically deck building. It's a card game. It's a single player game. It's an experience that focuses gameplay-wise on some elements that are basically stealth, turn-based, if I could picture them, if I could picture them for you like that. So it is about sneaking around. It is about organizing your play in powerful combos to take down your adversaries as gameplay in terms of combat. However, the narrative side is the therapy. So what we are trying to do is come up with a very quirky combination of old school monster horror tropes that sort of blend in with things from today. And we're looking at a cast of characters that basically each has their own weaknesses, their own flaws, and their strengths, and they work as a team. So you work as part of this team. You work with all of them from the let's say the kill squad. But in between these missions to take out all the baddies, you kind of have talks with each other about things that went well, that went bad, and offer advice, receive advice. And these things sort of are intended to feed into the core game loop and empower basically your deck. Also, a progression of the character, a character arc that starts from a certain level of insecurity, ends up in a resolution, right? So what we have here is like some very early concepts. So this is not even screenshots. This is like what one of our artists came up with to showcase the gameplay. Here we have Cotton Eye Joe. That's basically sweeping across the room from one hiding spot to another and targeting a bunch of bad people that he's basically striking down. So if you would probably the thing that strikes you when you see this is, well, maybe something akin to Slay the Spire, in the sense that you have your character on screen, you have the enemies on screen. But aside from that, we're delving into the stealth area by exploring orientation, right? The looking direction, traps, all sorts of moves that basically affect you, either compromise your stealth or just give you a panic attack in the end because of the anxiety that you collect. Right, so these creatures, these monsters that you play as, they're sort of immortal, but they are not undefeatable, indefeatable. They do have their own issues, and they generate a lot of anxiety just by finishing their objectives. So as you would expect, a hand of cards that's being dealt to you and a situation that you need to solve. And afterwards, you're basically welcome in the therapy room, where you sit down with your colleagues and discuss things that happen, things that will happen. These narrative bits, they basically fuel not just the narrative itself, but they also fuel the gameplay later down. So we had some questions about monster therapy. And one of them was, I heard initially Monster Therapy wasn't a card game. What made you change the type of game? So yes, we did start out with a completely different genre. I mean, at least the stealth element was there, but we went for stealth action first, and it was just roaming about in a small country fair that you would do things. And we realized that we like developing systems, we like testing them, we like spending hours on them to perfect them and see all sorts of cool interactions. But in the end, we kind of realized that the gameplay fell flat, and we had to pull the plug on it. So we didn't want to. We were sure that we could deliver something, but we weren't sure that this is what we actually want to do. We weren't that experienced to begin with when it comes to stealth games. To begin with, we played a few. I mean, stealth game is kind of it's a weird term. It's not necessarily. One could argue it's not a genre per se. It's more like a theme that accompanies a genre. Like you're playing a first-person shooter that's also stealth, or you're playing a platformer that's also stealth, right? We wanted to keep that, but Kata came up with the idea of playing cards because he enjoyed very much playing
Hogwarts Legacy.
Hogwarts Legacy.
Hogwarts Battle.
Hogwarts Battle. Thank you.
Cooperative card game, like tabletop game, not virtual game. Tabletop cooperative card game deck builder. And I like that it especially fit the idea. We had the idea of a group of monsters working together through therapy that was older than the card game idea. And I thought putting these three things together, like the group of monsters, stealth, and card game, I thought it could bring something new to the table and have something different and interesting. And yeah, we realized that the stealth action gameplay was really, we wanted to do it. We thought it was really interesting to do it, but that requires a bunch of overlapping system whose complexity goes higher and higher. Like you need AI for the NPCs to look believable. We actually, I think that was one of the starting points. Wanted to do, okay, let's make them real, lifelike, let's make them have schedules, let's make them fun. But in the end it was, I think, too much. We realized that the scope would be too higher and many places where we could fail and not get the game out or get the game into an not fun state, which is why we switched to the card game. Yeah.
You mentioned that the initial version of your game was, you realized it wasn't fun, the gameplay. How did you realize that? Was it something that was within the team, or did you actually play test it with other people and they gave you feedback and you realized it wasn't what you wanted it to be?
I mean, we kind of, so Kata mentioned the fact that we started developing a lot of systems, and the complexity grew exponentially. Then at the same time, we noticed that while we were developing the game per se, we weren't actually reaching some cool, I mean, not necessarily cool gameplay, but we were supposed to handle various stealth play styles based on the character that you're playing as. And we realized there's so much to work, and we have so little experience in that part, and we weren't really sure that we were going to be able to reach a point where things could be truly fun, like for everything. We were thinking also about cutting the scope, but then we thought maybe that's not the best approach. So we did this testing in between ourselves, and there came a time when we had to say, okay, we have a problem here. We can't really push on with this and not know exactly what we're going to proceed, what we're going to do with, for instance, the character's abilities properly and how things will tie together, even though we had some really fun stuff otherwise on screen. So it was a juicy map that you could explore and do some cute tiny interactions, but that was all there is to it. And we still wanted to keep the stealth, so we were like, okay, something else.
It's always a question. So yeah, the answer is internally, not externally. And it's also always a question of, okay, how much do you push a prototype, do you push a demo until, I mean, it's going to be fun later. That's the thing you can always say, that, okay, I just need to add one more system, it's going to be fun. One more system, it's going to be fun. But that can keep you for years and years working on the same thing. That's
physical prototype, but prototyping in general, how do you go about it? Because a card game is very physical in theory, but we know that I think that physical card games are very different from digital card games and how much the computer can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go about making a card game? Like, what was your initial, did you start with a physical prototype? Or did you straight up go to engine?
Right? Yeah. His thesis was if people are going to become racist against AI. And he got like a 9 or 10 grade or something.
Well, I mean, it's not that. I mean, that was just the sugar coating of it. It's the correlation. Yeah, it's the correlation between narcissism, right?
And in the end, each of us has their different lens that connects them to the game and the themes of the game, because like we're all mentally unhealthy in the end. But yeah, it's.
If you're mentally, you're one of us.
So
at the end of the day, it's more hints of professionalism, more of, hey, this looks messed up.
Yeah.
Understood? Carry on.
How do you manage to balance your full-time jobs with your game dev journey? And the answer to that is we don't. Well, I mean,
It's a complex answer. We don't, because like game dev is our full-time job, but at the end there's no balance between work life and personal life, because we think of game dev, we do game dev related stuff even outside of actual work. So
I mean, it's hard to sometimes, you know, put a stop to what you're doing and just take some time to relax and have some time for yourself so you don't burn out. But we saw how valuable that is, and we're trying as much as possible to be, you know, considerate with this. What is something that you know now that you wish to know when starting out? This is like as a general question rather than a Yaga related question. Kind of, there are a lot of things. I wouldn't know.
Said some of them. I think one of the biggest things is never try to imagine yourself being the player. Like, obviously you have to do it, like, of course you have to do it. But we're still making that mistake. We still think, of course we can imagine how a player would play our game, right? And then we saw, like, we did an internal playtest on, like, we have a games room at the office, and we have some TVs, and like one of our colleagues decided to surprise us with, hey guys, I installed your game on a bunch of Linux machines, the colleagues can play them. Yay! So we went there and we saw our colleagues from the other departments, like, okay, what the fuck do I do? What's this? What's that? Like, why don't I know what this icon does? Because you're not supposed to know from the start, you're supposed to find out. Well, I don't like it, I want to know from the start. Like, we like never assume you know what players want.
So all the feedback that you take, so we process it first, right? So never go full on, okay, whatever feedback I get, it's a valid feedback and I want to apply this to my game. I mean, you would expect good advice in general, but you definitely want to detach from the information and see what the player believes, what the player thinks, how the player thinks, so you can process it better to understand why they didn't like something, why something felt off, why they didn't understand certain things in the game. So
I'm just gonna add. We had the colleague play test the game a few months ago at home in his own leisure time with a glass of wine, and he kept writing to us on Discord, hey guys, this game's too hard, it's too hard. And like, at some point we got like, what cards are you buying from the shop? And after a few hours of playing, you can buy cards? What the fuck, you haven't been buying cards? Of course it's impossible to finish, it's a card game, you're supposed to buy new cards.
so yeah.
One thing to remember about feedback is the feedback is never wrong, so you can't say the feedback is wrong. No, the solution suggested by the players is almost always wrong, but the feedback is never wrong. It was too hard.
Yeah, it was too hard.
Because they didn't know how to play.
And like, piece of advice that always goes well is make things readable.
Yeah, make things readable. Absolutely.
We found out after working on the game for 3 or 4 years that on a regular sized TV from like a reasonable couch, you couldn't actually read the text on the cards.
It's good to always test all the setups. I mean, most setups that you would expect people to use when playing the game. Next. What's your process when making a new game? Do you start with the art, music, concept, or a gameplay mechanic? Well, we start with the concepts most of the time, and we have like this back and forth. For instance, Kata mentioned earlier, like we had certain moments in Yaga when like the artist would just spawn some cool move sets for one of the characters, one of the enemies, and we were like, hey, this absolutely slaps, let's have it in a game, like that. And other times you were like, okay, we need a ranged character to do things, then we knew that, like, okay, it dictates having a certain type of monster in the game, and the artist did something with that information. So regardless of that, we start off with concepts to have a good visual cue of what we're trying to build, how the world looks like, how the environment looks like, how the characters come to life, what we picture them doing on the screen, very important. And that's how we start working on stuff.
As a team, roughly remain the same from the beginning of Yaga, let's say, or has it changed much? And if you're the same people basically working since then, have you maybe found out that you work better over the years, like more streamlined, more efficient, or let's say?
So the team has been roughly the same since the ending of Yaga. Throughout the developing Yaga, it's been quite, 4 years, I think, was the process of developing Yaga, and we started with part of the team that is now was then, I think me and the artists were there from the beginning, and we had another developer, and then who's no longer with, he's alive, he's no longer with us anymore. He's not part of the team, he left the industry. And throughout the years developing Yaga, Flaviu and Bogdan joined our teams, and but since the ending of Yaga, we've mostly been the same core team.
I think, apart from me, the newest person in the team is Janina, who has 10 years in the team. So imagine how long they've been together.
And to answer his question, it gets a lot easier if you know the people well. We used to fight a lot. Like almost every day we had some fights about, no, we should be doing it like this, no, like this, no, like that. But that game is doing like this. But I don't care how that game does it. I'm not environment. Like now we can predict when, like, okay, let's do it like this, but let's prepare for Bogdan's arguments because he's gonna fucking hate it when we do it like this. And he starts to say, like, yeah, we know you don't like it because of that, but look, we prepared like already a rebuttal to yours.
It's important, I guess, to really know each other. It helps a lot. We kind of understand each other from before we start speaking things. So.
We know what each of us is better at than the rest. So I'm rarely going to challenge some, design coming from Flaviu, because I know he's thinking a bit 2 levels deeper than I am about those stuff. And in exchange, I think they trust me with the narrative side a bit more, because I think in other directions there. So we complement each other. I know if it's something to do with balancing, Bogdan is going to know a whole lot better than I am going to know those.
So we have a link tree here with our links. Join the community, wishlist our game.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just like to leave it off in creative mindset, the meme of the day for us was this, courtesy of Flaviu. Please enjoy.
Meme of the day, so on our Discord every day.
Yeah.